Oh boy, Pokémon, Pocket Monsters, gotta catch 'em all. This is a video that I've been wanting to make since October. Pokémon is one of the most successful multimedia franchises on the planet, with games, trading cards, TV shows, movies, you name it. My personal story with this series goes a little something like this. When I was little, I grew up watching bits of the anime. I had the first 3 movies on VHS. I also had Pokémon Stadium 2 on my N64. I wouldn't get to play any of the mainline Pokémon games until around 2008 when I was gifted a copy of Pokémon Pearl version for Christmas, and that started my life down a road that I kinda question if I want to continue on nowadays, to be honest, but I still enjoy most of these games and will gladly call myself a Pokémon fan. We got quite a lot to get through, however, before we get to that point in the series where I jumped in. Right now, let's focus solely on the games that started it all: Pokémon Red, Green, Blue, and Yellow. Before we get into the thick of it, let's actually discuss how the series got made. In 1990, game developer Satoshi Tajiri pitched an idea for a game where players catch monsters and can trade and battle them. Although it was initially met with some skepticism, believed to be too ambitious for the time, the one and only Shigeru Miyamoto saw potential in the idea and gave the project his blessing. The development of the game was helmed by Game Freak, a lesser-known company that made several games, but nothing that really was notable. Over time, the game's systems took shape and over 150 monsters were decided on to be included in the game, with several of them being made version exclusive to encourage use of the Game Boy Link cable to trade the monsters and even battle them. On February 27th, 1996, Pocket Monsters Red and Green released in Japan, and despite sluggish initial sales, the games eventually took off. However, they were far from perfect. They were often criticized for being very buggy and having some really ugly sprite art with the monsters. To address these criticisms, on October 15th later that year, an updated Blue version was released that contained bug fixes and updated sprite art. When it came to localizing the games, it wouldn't make much sense to release all 3 with language translation, so Nintendo used the updated Blue version as a basis, then split it into 2 versions using Red and Green's data, and with a shortened title, Pokémon Red and Blue released here in America on September 28th, 1998. Finally, another updated version that loosely incorporated some elements from the anime was released as Pokémon Yellow Special Pikachu Edition on September 12, 1998 in Japan, and on October 19th, 1999 in America. Now let's talk about something less, good. What if you want to play these games for yourself? Well, you can get the original cartridges that these games were made on. However, Game Boy games use a watch battery to keep your save data, and once that battery dies, and it will, your save data is gone forever. Fortunately, Nintendo re-released these games on the 3DS Virtual Console back in 2016, which you can get for it, damn it. Okay, so this effectively means you have 2 options if you want to play these games nowadays in a post-3DS eShop world. Get a device that can play Game Boy carts and a copy of one of these games, which are really expensive now, or you can turn to less genuine methods.
You are a pirate!
I, of course, do not condone piracy. However, in case anyone from Nintendo is watching, I want to say this. You wouldn't have this problem with your games being pirated if you just made them easily accessible and didn't throw them into the Nintendo vault. Okay, I think that's everything out of the way. Let's dive into why a pair of games from a lesser-known game developer exploded into one of the most profitable multimedia franchises in history. Now, before starting, we do have a very important decision to make. Which version should I play? Well, we can immediately throw Green version out, since unless you speak Japanese, it's the same as the international Blue version, so that leaves us with Red, Blue, and Yellow. As for my personal opinion, well, I think you should choose either Red or Blue for your first time. Yellow isn't exactly like how third versions of future games in the series are, like Crystal or Platinum. You're forced into having the worst starter in the game, Pikachu, who the game doesn't even let you evolve. Top it off with, if you want to catch them all, you still have to trade with Red and Blue. For this video, I chose Blue version since it has my preference of version exclusives, but also because I like Blastoise more than Charizard. Upon starting a new game, we're greeted by the Pokémon professor, Professor Oak, who introduces us to the world of Pokémon before asking us our name, as well as the name of his grandson, who is our rival. Now, you can name these 2 whatever you want, but canonically they are known as Red and Blue respectively. After all of that is squared away, we awaken our bedroom in Pallet Town, one of the many locations in the Kanto region, to start our journey. After pulling a potion out of our PC, we can talk to our mom, who references Stand By Me, like the actual film. There are some people we can talk to around town, but when we try to leave our hometown, Professor Oak stops us and takes us to his lab where Blue is also waiting, as he allows both of us to choose one of 3 Pokemon to start our quest off with: the Grass-type Bulbasaur, the Fire-type Charmander, and the Water-type Squirtle. This effectively serves as your difficulty select for early game, but we'll get into why in a bit. I decided to pick Bulbasaur, who I gave a loving nickname to which Blue picked Charmander, and then he challenges us to our first battle. This game is an RPG, so battles are turn-based, your Pokemon versus the opponent's Pokemon in a 1v1 match. You have one of 4 options to choose from when in battle. Fight will bring up your move list, to which every Pokemon can only know 4 moves at a time to keep things balanced. Items will bring up your backpack so that you can use healing items or throw Pokeballs at wild Pokemon. The Pokemon option will allow you to switch to a different Pokemon within your party, and lastly, the run option will let us flee from battle, but it only works in wild encounters. It will not work in a trainer battle. After a grueling fight, Bulbasaur barely manages to come out on top. After knocking out an opponent's entire team, you're rewarded prize money and your team is given experience points, to which when enough of that is accrued, they level up, which raises their stats. In this game, there are 5 stats in total: HP, which is self-explanatory, I hope. Attack, which is used for physical attacking moves. Defense, which is used if we get hit by a physical move. Speed, which determines who moves first in battle with the exception of priority moves like Quick Attack. And Special. The Special stat is fucked in this game. The stat will act as both Special Attack and Special Defense, so Pokemon with high Special stats are kind of busted. Finally, we can leave Pallet Town and head north to Route 1, where we can level up some more on wild Pokemon, before reaching Viridian City, where we find our first Pokemon Center, which will heal our Pokemon for free. Oh, fuck yeah, free healthcare! We can also find the Cable Club here, which, if we're connected to another game, will allow us to trade Pokemon with that other person, as well as battle them. The PC is also here, which will allow us to store Pokemon in boxes, as well as store our items, as our inventory is rather limited in this game, only allowing us to carry 20 different items at a time. We can also find a Pokemart here, which will allow us to buy various items to aid us on our journey. However, the cashier gives us a parcel for Oak and asks us to deliver it to him. After giving Oak his package, he gives both us and Blue the Pokédex, which will automatically record the data of any Pokemon we catch and asks us to fulfill his lifelong dream of completing the Pokédex. Back in Viridian City, this old man will show us how to catch wild Pokemon, to which I then go and buy some Pokeballs for when that time comes. Route 2 leads us to Viridian Forest, which is littered with Caterpies and Weedles, as well as bug catcher trainers who will challenge us to a fight. After fighting our way through the forest, we emerge on the other side and enter Pewter City, but before anything, I heal up and head back into the forest in search of a new party member. And one lengthy search later, we find Pikachu, who I catch and christen him the Rat. Returning to Pewter, we can visit the nearby museum, which hosts the skeletal remains of extinct Pokemon species, as well as a downscaled model of the Space Shuttle Columbia, an actual space shuttle NASA used from 1981 to 2003. We also come across the first of 8 Pokemon Gyms. These are challenges meant to test a trainer and their teams. The first one belongs to the rock-solid Brock, the master of rock-type Pokemon, where this will likely be your first real taste of type matchups. Unless you picked Bulbasaur, in which case Viridian Forest was your first taste of that. If you picked Bulbasaur or Squirtle as your starter, then Brock should prove to be not all that difficult, as Rock is weak to water and grass. If you picked Charmander, you might actually struggle a bit here, as the Fire type is weak to the Rock type. Regardless, once Brock is beaten, he'll award you with the Boulder Badge, as well as TM34, containing the move Bind. TMs, or Technical Machines, are one-time use items that allow you to teach a move to a Pokemon that they otherwise just wouldn't learn. They can be pretty useful, just make sure that you're using them when you want to, as again, they're one-time use. Now that we've beaten Brock, we can progress on to Route 3, which will take us to Mount Moon. Now that we've had a taste of how types work, let's actually go into types, as it's pretty good to know how type matchups and all that work if you want to play these games. In Generation 1, there are a total of 15 types. Some are more common than others, like water or grass, while some only have a few Pokemon to them, like Ghost or the elusive Dragon type. Every type interacts with others differently. Some are strong against others, like I mentioned with Rock, some resist others like Dragon resisting Electric, and a few are just flat out immune to other types like Ground, which is immune to the Electric and Poison types. Some type matchups are just common sense, like the starters, which have a rock, paper, scissors dynamic to them. Some types are just flat out better than others. Bug is not so great come late game, and I'll save talking about a certain type in particular for a little later in the video. One last thing I'll mention right now is evolution. When most Pokemon reach a certain level, they'll evolve into a more powerful form. There are other methods for evolving Pokemon, like trading with another game or using an evolutionary stone. There are also some Pokemon that don't evolve at all, like Kangaskhan, for example. Mount Moon is one of many underground dungeon areas in the game, and is also why Bulbasaur is often referred to as the best starter in the game. These places are littered with rock-type Pokemon, which the grass-type makes quick work of. Not to mention... Deep within Mount Moon, we find these thugs who are part of a crime syndicate called Team Rocket, who plan to exploit Pokemon for money and eventually take over the world. After fighting them off, we come across a super nerd who challenges us for one of the Pokemon fossils. After beating him, he'll allow us to take one. Naturally, I chose Lord Helix, as he then takes the Dome fossil for himself. We can take this fossil to some other place later in the game and eventually have it revived. This is just one of many ways that we can get new Pokemon. Others include gambling, trading, fishing, or just being flat out gifted them. After leaving Mount Moon, I added yet another member to the team, a Spearow, who I gave the totally cool name, Captain Jack Spearow. Finally, we reached Cerulean City, home of our next gym leader, the tomboyish mermaid, Misty. But before challenging her, I went north to Nugget Bridge, where I not only fought Blue once again, but also fought through this gauntlet of trainers where at the end, a Team Rocket grunt tried to induct me into their crime organization, but after unleashing a can of whoop-ass, he promptly ran away. Next, I added a fourth member to the team, an Abra who I named Magic Man, who I used to set up some shenanigans for later. Before reaching the Pokemaniac Bill, who, after helping him with his, dilemma, gave me a ticket to the SS Anne in Vermilion City. You know, there is another reason as to why I caught Abra. It wasn't just for doing some silly stuff. You see, Abra and its evolutions are psychic types. Psychic types in this game are utterly busted. Most psychic Pokemon have a high special stat, and since whether a move deals physical or special damage depends on the move's type in this game, psychic Pokemon can just steamroll everything. They do have some types they're weak to, however, bugs are weak as shit, and you won't be seeing them in the late game. Then there's the ghost type, but thanks to a programming error, ghost moves don't affect psychic types at all. No shit, you could just catch an Abra, evolve it into a Kadabra, never evolve it into an Alakazam, and you will just win. After returning to Cerulean, I decided to visit the bike shop, and Jesus no! You're out of your fucking mind if you think I'm paying $1 million for a bike! At last, we challenged Misty, who specializes in the water type, so once again, we breeze through this thanks to our Ivysaur and Pikachu. For winning, she gives us the Cascade badge, as well as TM11, Bubble Beam. With Misty beat, this guard is moved aside, allowing us to enter this house, and good God! Team Rocket did this? Jesus! We find the culprit, who is not even 10 feet from the crime scene, and shock his Pokemon into submission, where he gives us the stolen goods before fleeing. With the SS Anne ticket, our next destination is Vermilion City, but we have to take this underground passage, as the guards in the Saffron City won't let us in because they're thirsty? Dude, come on, come up with a better excuse. After emerging on the other side of the tunnel, we find ourselves on Route 6, just above Vermilion, where we can finally board the SS Anne and battle many trainers for some goodies, as well as make our way to the captain, where we have yet another encounter with Blue, where we beat him so badly, his Raticate dies. Finally, we meet the captain, who is, seasick? After giving him a shoulder rub, he gives us the, I'll be right back. He gives us the HM cut. HMs are like TMs, except they're infinite use, and they have a secondary uses for outside of battle. Cut, for example, will let us cut down trees in our way, because no one in the Pokemon world knows how to step around things. The SS Anne immediately leaves right as we step off of it after obtaining Cut. I remember me and my friends having this rumor that if you stayed on the boat for too long, it would leave with you on it and crash, killing you and everyone on board. It doesn't, but I still remember that being why I sped through this section of the game when I was younger. We can also stop by this Pokemon fan club and listen to the club president ramble on about how he loves the Pokemon Rapidash. I'm just saying, I think dude wants to fuck the horse. He gives us a bike vulture though, so it's worth it. Now we have two options when it comes to cut. We could A, teach it to Ivysaur, or B, go catch a wild Pokemon to teach it to instead. Yeah, I went with the latter. Our next gym is home to the Lightning American, Lieutenant Surge, who zaps his opponents with electric-type Pokemon. Assuming you can get through his gym! It's not challenging, it's just really frustrating. You have to find these switches in these trash cans, but they're randomized each time, so this puzzle can take you either 2 minutes or 2 hours if you're really unlucky. After beating the Lieutenant, he gives us the Thunder Badge, as well as TM34 Thunderbolt. After crawling through Diglett's cave to reach Pewter City, I went south to get the HM for Flash, which will let us light up dark places from the Professor's aid. He'll only give it to you once you have 10 unique Pokemon registered in the deck, so there we go. Returning to Cerulean, we can cut down this tree and head west to reach Rock Tunnel, which is dark as shit. It's a good thing I nabbed Flash when I did. After emerging from Zubat Central 2, we reach Lavender Town, home of Pokemon Tower, an actual gravesite for Pokemon. It's good to know that Pokemon actually die. Do you believe in ghosts? Haha, I guess not. That white hand on your shoulder, it's not real. What? Woo! I added yet another Pokemon to the team, a Vulpix that I named Tails. From there, our next goal is Celadon City, which we have to take yet another underground path to reach since the Saffron guards are still being bitches. Oh, I'm so thirsty, I won't let anyone into the city. Yeah, well, you know what? It smells like bitch to me! Celadon City is a rather bustling place with a department store, a mansion, and an actual casino that, yes, you can play in, and it even gives out Pokemon as rewards like Porygon. Lots of Team Rocket Goonies here now, and oh right, I can't say that word, guys? No, it doesn't have the same ring to it, man. Fuck young people, they took Goon from us. Apparently this Rocket Grunt was guarding something, and... oh! I'll come back to investigate that later. At the top of the mansion, there's this guy who will give us the Pokemon Eevee, which can evolve into one of 3 Pokemon depending on the stone that you give it. There's Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon. I already have a fire and electric type Pokemon, so I chose to use Vaporeon as my water Pokemon for the game. Not to mention Vaporeon turned out to be a bloodthirsty machine later on. You know, speaking of Vaporeon, did you know that in terms of...
Please don't quote that fluff.
Palkia, what are you doing here?
I'm a Pokemon? Why wouldn't I be here?
This is Gen 1, you're Gen 4, you don't exist yet, get out of here!
Okay, fine, I guess I just don't exist yet. Bye! Ah!
After obtaining the HM for Fly, which is our fast travel system for the game, we can take on Erica, the nature-loving princess who makes us face our worst enemy yet. Grass. After burning the gym down, she gives us the Rainbow Badge, as well as TM21 Mega Drain. We can also find this old man peeping into the gym and... damn it, can't use cut on people. Anyway, I flew back to Cerulean and redeemed that voucher for the bike, so now we can travel around faster. I then went and investigated that secret room in the game corner, which was actually Team Rocket's hideout. By fighting our way through the place and dealing with these things, oh god, I'm getting flashbacks to Twitch Plays Pokemon, we find the boss of Team Rocket, Giovanni, who fights us, and promptly loses, where he gives us the Sylph Scope that'll allow us to see a ghost Pokemon's true identity. Also, Ivysaur reached the level where it evolves into Venusaur, and... the fuck is with the music? God, this game... actually, now is a good time to bring this up. Modern Pokemon is known for being pretty buggy, right? Well, you see, Gen 1, well, it's kind of... sort of... well, you see, it's... yeah, these games are being held together with duct tape and spit. This is Mew. Mew is a mythical Pokemon, meaning it was only meant to be obtained by going to real-world limited-time events. What I just did is often referred to as the Mew glitch, one of many glitches in this game. Let's go over just some of the ones that I did for this video. There's this one you can do where if you pick Charmander as your starter, you can get a level 1 Nidoking before Brock, and because the level curve doesn't really account for level 1 Pokemon all that much, gaining just a small amount of experience points will do this! Have fun wreaking havoc across the whole game with a level 100 monster. Leech Seed and Toxic for some reason stack on each other in this game, allowing for you to just massacre opponents within record time. I somehow managed to spawn a level 132 legendary Pokemon by accident. Just for the record, the level cap is 100. How about Glitch City, which is achieved by doing some shenanigans in the Safari Zone? Perhaps one of the most famous glitches in all of gaming comes from this game, Missing No, a glitch Pokemon that corrupts the shit out of your Hall of Fame data, but also multiplies whatever item is in the 6th slot of your bag up to 128 of itself. And those are just some of the few that I did for this video. There are so many more glitches in this game that it makes you wonder how these games manage to spawn a franchise this massive. Returning to Lavender Town, we can make our way up Pokemon Tower and fight off several ghosts, including the ghost of a Marowak, where we find Team Rocket harassing this old man named Mr. Fuji, who as thanks, gives us the Poké-Flute, which awakes slumbering Pokemon, which we use to awaken this big fluffy bear named Snorlax, and catch it cause why not? After enduring 2 massive gauntlets of trainers, we reach Fuchsia City, home of Gym number 5, as well as the Safari Zone. Before any of that, however, I managed to get a bottle of water and gave it to the Saffron guards, who will now let us into the city, and oh god, this place is overrun with Team Rocket. It turns out that Team Rocket have invaded the Silphco building in an attempt to steal something of great value from it, so after doing some training in the fighting dojo and even getting a new Pokemon as a reward, we head inside and take on Team Rocket, where even Blue is there and challenges us to yet another battle. After that, one of the workers inside gives us a Lapras as thanks for saving him, as we finally reach Giovanni, who challenges us yet again, and similarly to last time, loses, where he and Team Rocket leave in shame. The president of Silphco gifts us the one-of-a-kind Master Ball, a Pokeball capable of capturing any Pokemon without fail. It's best we save this for later, and not waste it on something benign like a wild Pidgey or something. After returning to Fuchsia City, we can take on the Poisonous Ninja Master, Koga, who, in case you couldn't tell, uses Poison-type Pokemon. Bring plenty of antidotes for this place, as you can get poisoned here pretty easily. Oh right, the status conditions. Okay, I promise I'll be quick with this. Paralysis can prevent your Pokemon from attacking, Sleep puts your Pokemon to sleep for up to 5 turns, Confusion has a chance for your Pokemon to attack itself, Burn and Poison deal damage to a Pokemon over time, and lastly Freeze permanently freezes your Pokemon unless they're hit by a fire move or until you use a Freeze Heal on them. Koga will award us the Soul Badge as well as TM06 Toxic for beating him. Next up is the Safari Zone, which is an interesting minigame. You don't use Pokemon here, instead you have 30 Safari Balls and an unlimited amount of bait and rocks in an attempt to catch some uncommon or rare Pokemon. It is required that we go here as it's the only place where we can get the HM for Surf, allowing us to cross bodies of water, and then there's also the gold teeth for the Safari Warden so that we can get the HM for Strength, allowing us to push these boulders out of the way. Couldn't hurt to catch some Pokemon while we're here though. Oh, neat! I bet that's gonna make someone really mad. I went ahead and taught Surf to Vaporeon and Strength to... What? What do you mean none of my Pokemon can learn how to push a rock to the side? What kind of Gen 1 bullshit is this? Back in Saffron City, we can take on Sabrina, the master of psychic Pokemon, who when beaten, will award us the Marsh Badge and TM46 Psywave. Our next objective is on Cinnabar Island, which we go to by heading south of Fuchsia City. This means we have to go through the shivering caverns of Seafoam Islands, which is full of Ice-type Pokemon. Why do I get the feeling that there's something over there? I'll check back later. After expending a bit of my brain power, we leave Seafoam Islands and arrive at Cinnabar Island, where I gave the Helix fossil I got back in Mount Moon to the researchers of this lab here, who were able to revive it into the Pokemon called Ammonite. Before we're allowed to enter the gym here, we have to find a key that's hidden within the Pokemon Mansion, this run-down building that has several journals detailing the Pokemon Mew and its offspring. I wonder what that's about. After getting the secret key from the basement of the mansion, we can enter the 7th gym in our quest, led by the hothead quizmaster Blaine, who will not only cook us alive with fire Pokemon, but knowledge. You can actually avoid fighting the trainers here if you get these questions right, but fuck that, them's free EXP. Blaine will award us the Volcano Badge, which is kind of a foreboding name in hindsight, as well as TM38 Fire Blast. Our final gym resides back in Viridian City, which we can now enter as the gym leader has returned. No one knows who the leader is though, just that they specialize in ground-type Pokemon. After making our way through the gym, it's revealed that the gym leader is none other than Giovanni, who plans on using the gym to revive Team Rocket, which we quickly put a stop to. For beating him, Giovanni awards us the Earth Badge as well as TM27 Fisher, before telling us that he's realized the errors of his ways and formally disbands Team Rocket before leaving to better himself as a trainer and as a person, where we never see him again. With all 8 badges in hand, we can take on the Pokemon League at Indigo Plateau. As we head for the badge gate, we find Blue, who has also collected all 8 badges, and challenges us once more, where he loses, and claims that as his warm-up fight, as he then makes his way for the Pokemon League. Like, dude, just know when you're beaten. We progress to the badge gate, presenting each gym badge to the guards as we reach one final challenge before the league, Victory Road, a cave full of some of the strongest non-boss trainers we've fought yet. There's also this strange bird in the cave. I'll come back for you in a bit. Finally, Indigo Plateau, the final challenge in our journey to become a Pokemon Master. However, that bird and that spot in Seafoam, they call to me. After healing up and stocking up on Ultra Balls, I went back into Victory Road and found that bird, which turned out to be the legendary Pokemon Moltres, one of 3 legendary bird Pokemon that can be found hidden across the Kanto region. So I think now is the best time to do some legendary hunting. After capturing Moltres, I went back to Seafoam and found the Ice Bird, Articuno, who was caught rather fast, like in 5 balls and that's it. Next, I went to the power plant south of Rock Tunnel's northern entrance, where you can find a lot of cool electric Pokemon, but waiting at the end was the electric legendary bird, Zapdos, who, by god, 4 Ultra Balls and that's it. Alright, with all of that out of my system, I say we finally take on the League. The League Challenge is a gauntlet where you cannot stop by a Pokemon Center to heal. You only have you, the 6 Pokemon you entered with, and the items in your bag, so prepare yourself. Stock up on as many potions and revives as you feel necessary. Lorelei is up first, who specializes in the fragile but scary, in Gen 1 at least, Ice type. Fortunately, she goes down rather quickly thanks to the combined efforts of Raichu and Ninetales. Second up is Bruno, master of fighting-type Pokemon, who gets brutally beaten by my Alakazam. It straight up was unfair for him, honestly. Our third challenge is the Ghost-type master, Agatha, which... Alakazam, if you would. Thank you. The final member of the Elite Four is the Dragon Master Lance, who uses the rare Dragon type, all 3 of them. His Dragonite is probably the only thing you really need to worry about. Other than that, we did it! Lance congratulates us on beating the Elite Four and becoming the Pokemon League champion. Or at least we would be. You see, we still have one more fight, and it's against the current reigning champion, who is revealed to be none other than Blue. He was always one step ahead of us our whole journey, and now he's the Pokemon League champion, which means he is now the most powerful trainer in the world. The final fight against Blue? I swear has never been tough for me, as Alakazam gave me some shit, but it's an Alakazam, of course it would! Eventually, he was down to just his original starter Pokemon, Charizard, and you know what would be poetic? Go Venusaur! I saw that coming from a mile away. Anyway, Vaporeon, finish this. After winning, we are now the Pokemon League champion, which Professor Oak shows up just in time to congratulate us and scolds Blue, saying that the reason we won was because of our love and care for Pokemon, and definitely not because of a bloodthirsty blue maniac. Oak inducts us and our team into the Hall of Fame, where we are recorded as champions, ending Pokemon Generation 1. Well, almost. While, yes, this ends the story, we still have one thing left to do. You might have seen this cave in Cerulean blocked off by this random NPC. Well, if you go there now, he's gone. Cerulean Cave is a maze full of super strong Pokemon and amazing items that really incentivize you to go deeper into the cave. And you should. You should go deep into Cerulean Cave because it just so happens that something legendary awaits you at the end. July 5th, Guyana, South America. A new Pokemon was discovered in the jungle. July 10th, we've christened the newly discovered Pokemon Mew. February 6th, Mew gave birth. We named the newborn Mewtwo. September 1st, Mewtwo is far too powerful. We failed to curb its vicious tendencies, dreamed of creating the world's strongest Pokemon, and we succeeded. Mewtwo is hands down the most powerful Pokemon in the game, and is to this day one of the most powerful in the series. It has one of the highest base stat totals in the game. It's psychic, it learns some of the best moves in the game, it's legendary, and it's hard to catch. This is what the Master Ball was made for, and why Giovanni wanted it. He wanted the power of this beast to take over the world. Fortunately, it's now in the hands of a trainer who will likely show it compassion and trust. Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, and Yellow can feel rather archaic and even sluggish by today's standards. I've always stated that going back to these early Pokemon games is like running face first into a brick wall because you have to unlearn so much of the modern amenities that the series has featured today, like bigger storage boxes for the PC or unlimited inventory space in the bag, but at the end of the day, I still enjoyed myself more than I thought I would. I have played Gen 1 before, and I didn't like it that much, but replaying it for this video, I don't know, it gave me a newfound appreciation for them that didn't previously exist.
Besides, if it wasn't for these games, you wouldn't have me.
I suppose so. Come here. Damn it. Well, there's always next time. Speaking of next time, I wonder if since my opinions on these games changed this go-around, if my opinions on the next games in this series will change as well when I get to those. Well, that's for later. But until then, have a great day or night. Peace.